Hey, this is a quick tutorial about how charts work in Causal. I've got a really simple financial model set up. I have some assumptions and I generate my customers' revenue and profit. And maybe I want to see some of this stuff on some charts. If I want to create a chart for revenue, I can just right click on the revenue variable, go and create chart, and maybe I'll select a line chart to start off with. And now on the right hand side, I'll see a chart for my revenue over time. Causal automatically has this chart section on the right hand side. You can resize if you want, you can hide it and show it if you want. And so now I have a chart for my revenue. If I wanted to add other variables to this chart, I can just drag them on. So I'll take cost of goods, drag it on, and now I can see cost of goods on the chart as well. And if I click on the settings icon in the top right of this chart, there's a bunch of other options. I can change the chart type. Maybe I want to see a bar chart. I can change the granularity. Maybe I want to see this on a quarterly basis. And I don't know, maybe I want to show some labels. So there's a few basic configuration settings. For now, let's switch it back to a monthly line chart. And let's not show the labels. Cool, so I've got a basic chart set up. If you want to add variables or configure some basic stuff, then this view is fine. If you want to edit the chart in a bit more detail, then we have a separate workspace mode for that. And so if you click on workspace and select visuals, this will take you to the visuals mode. And now if we select the chart, we can see a bunch of more options for actually customizing this. And so one of the things that is often helpful to do is make a chart full width. So by default, every chart or table is takes up half the width of your sort of your canvas. And so if we toggle this, it'll now make it full width. And so now we can see the chart in a much bigger way. We have a few settings for the chart type. If we have variables that vary over time, we'll typically want a time series chart, and it can be a line chart or it can be a bar chart. You can actually have a mixture of the two. And so if we click on any of the variables in the chart down here, we can actually customize whether it's a line or a bar. So maybe we want revenue to be a bar, and so now that's a bar. We can also have different variables on different axes. It looks like the sort of the order of magnitude for revenue and cost of goods is quite different. And so if we put cost of goods maybe on the right hand side axis, then now we can see that in a bit more detail rather than kind of really small at the bottom of the screen. And so you can have a mixture of lines and bars, and you can have multiple axes on your charts as well. You can also control scenarios. At the moment in our model, we don't have any scenarios. Oh, maybe we do. So our default scenario is actually called low growth rate, and so that's why that shows up. But if we had other scenarios, we'd be able to select which scenarios to show on the chart. And then there's a few other options here. We can rename the variable, so now it shows us cogs in the legend and in the tooltip rather than the full name, which is cost of goods. So those are a bunch of options for charts. We also have static charts. Let's quickly take a look at those. So we have a few different types. We have distribution charts. If you're not familiar with probability distributions and how these charts work, I'd recommend checking out our documentation. But essentially, the static charts will have a little slider at the bottom if your variables change over time. Bar chart as well. It doesn't really make too much sense for these variables. So let's remove these and let's maybe add some of our variables that don't change over time. Maybe revenue per customer. If we want to show that as a statistic, we can do that. So yeah, essentially, there's a bunch of chart types. Have a play around. There's some advanced options. But this is broadly how you can use charts in Causal. Just one final thing, if we had multiple charts, so we can actually just copy and paste this, then we can kind of move them around and configure them. So maybe this chart will actually be a time series of our revenue, and maybe we want this to be at the top, so we can just drag it to the top. Maybe we want both of these to be side by side, so we can disable the full width on both of them. And now they'll be side by side, and if we want, we can change the height of a row. So that's more helpful when you have tables. But that kind of lets you configure how you want things to show up in the presentation dashboard. Enjoy.